been away from the microphone for a minute, as a tendency has to happen. Things go in ebbs and flows. And after 14 years and 2,000 interviews, I think I'm maybe a little bit more selective about who comes along into the intergalactic upon connection. And my next guest is somebody who I have been after for quite some time. She comes from a milieu of really an incredible powerhouse of artists that sort of were stuck in between the Beats and the hippies. I actually consider her a merry prankster, along with her friend Denise Kaufman, original drummer from the Ace of Cups that was around during a time when everything was psychedelicized and everything was turned upside down in the most positive way, especially as it related to music, because you would have these incredible bills of, the patrons would be maybe hip to one band, but then you'd come in and you have the Preservation jazz band from New Orleans, or you'd have Woody Herman with Sly Stone, or the Sons of Champlin with, Malo. It was a wild and elastic time in music, and that in many ways is evident in my guest's drumming as well, sort of a genreless style, just trying to transcend the earth realms through rhythm, which is love. Diane Vitalich, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, and love is the word.
Love is the word. So, Diane, I have to ask you, I'm 47 years old, and I wanted to ask you about a dear friend of mine who passed away maybe a couple years ago, but these cats were doing the coolest stuff in the world at a theater in San Francisco. The band's name was Light Sound Dimension, and the cat's name is Jerry Granelli. I did a bunch of interviews with him, and he was working with Noel Jukes, who was with Denise at the time, and George Morabus, and they were playing behind a black curtain with people with pillows, and it was light shows, and they were reacting to the first sound they heard. And I said, I know that you and the Ace of Cups were ensconced in that kind of activity.
I was there. There on one of those pillows.
Yes.
Watching.
I was waiting to find someone that was at. I was waiting to find someone. Oh my God.
Yeah. And what? Oh, Light Sound Dimension. Yeah.
Light Sound LSD.
LSD. Jerry Granelli was my drum teacher in the Ace of Cups.
All right. So I'm getting my goosebumps because I knew he. Denise foisted a CD of unreleased stuff from that time, and I know he was a part of it. You know what it is? I want you to talk about his philosophy as it related to drumming, because that guy could play with Vince Guaraldi. He could play completely free. He could play basic, but he was so unpretentious about the music itself. And I just would love you to talk about Jerry as your teacher.
He was real in the moment. That's how he played. And as a teacher, it was like he didn't want me to figure out how to hold a stick. He said, just hit the drum. That's all you have to do. Hit the drum. And his whole thing was, I guess when he was young, and like at 12 years old, he had all these chops. Joe Morello, I had taught him. And but he hadn't learned how to play. He didn't know that. He learned all these chops. He went to try to go to play, and he couldn't play because
wow, yeah, right. No, I get it. You're like
it's about like something else, right?
It's like being at a NAMM show or something, and just you never get a gig. You have so much facility, but you can't play with anybody.
Right. So he decided then that he had to unlearn everything. But he's got the chops. They're not going to go away. So that is good. He's already got that. But so what he did started listening and learning to what it was about. Playing to the music, not to your own what you learned that day. Play to the music, and that's what he taught me, to listen and play to the music. So whatever was the genre, if it was a shuffle, it was a blues, that's what you played in. That's what you had those choices to to groove in and take it further. And he says, all you need is little, pointers along the way, like little governors, along the way as you're playing, but play free. And that, was like not anybody else was teaching something like that, is like listening and playing the music and not worrying about.
That's so made my day because honestly, Jerry and I never met him, but I love his playing, and I love I love his philosophy. I also wonder about, he comes from this sort of milieu of where he had all these chops. Then he forgot. Then he had to forget how everything he learned, and then learned to play in an ensemble and stuff. He was one of those cats though that played everything in one. Everything was in the one. There was no. It wasn't like on the 2 and 4. So my favorite drummers are the ones that play every note. I just would love you to
He
talk about.
mentioned he mentioned about the one. He said when you're listening to the music, this is very early days for me. He put on a song. Where's the one? And so,
Any note can be
well,
the
I
one.
know where the 2 and 4 are.
Right.
I say that, but where's the one? And I said, I don't know where the one is, So he taught me how to listen to find where the one was. And that was the pulse of the song, So learning the pulse of the song, this is how you keep your time. This is where it is. He said, if you know where the one is, you can play anything. And that was amazing to hear
Well,
him.
I'm curious about your philosophy, not necessarily in any, because, Jerry was also, he was playing at the Haight Street Flats, which is probably another place that you were marinating in. But he was playing like it wasn't even, I mean, LSD, that was just completely spontaneous reaction to sound. And guys like Billy Kreutzmann and Mickey Hart used to come because, here we have basically a couple of, I mean, for the most part, self-taught cats, who are looking for the pulse in psychedelicized music. And I just kind of I've always fascinated because Billy really adopted this philosophy that any note can be the one. And I kind of wanted you to just talk about that concept because when you're in a conversation on the bandstand and there's a lot of trust, you leave the head of the tune, you get lost, but then everybody comes back in on the one, and it's the most cathartic thing in music. But the truth of the matter is that any note can be the one. I wanted to get your philosophy on that. And you can push back on me because a lot of people would disagree, but it's like
I'm just taking it in and feeling what you're saying. And so there's the space. There is a space. So in between that space, you can go anywhere, up, down, somewhere. And then at the end of the space, you come back down to the one. But so in music too, a lot of times it's the space that gets people. They feel that space in there.
That's right.
And it's hard to explain that part of in music. So if you fill it all up, you don't get as much from it. But if you have, the one, and then all of a sudden there's this kind of floaty feeling of space, and then it comes in again. Audiences too. Somebody plays it solo or in the part of it, they'll come way down and just come down to the very basic in the song and just play just a few notes. All of a sudden, everybody applauds. What is that? Where they're applauding not for the great, all the notes and everything, but when you stop playing, not just stop, I mean, bringing it down so that it's just grooving, then everybody applauds.
I did, yeah. No, actually, I mean, I actually let out tribal screams, which was very disconcerting to a lot of square cats. But I can really, my feeling is like that undulating space that you're talking about, and I think that like when that's kind of what I wanted you to talk about is like when you early on with the Aces, not that you were playing like odd metered, jazz, but do you feel like you were subdividing a lot on the kit?
No, I didn't do a lot of that. It's mostly keeping the groove together. These are rock songs, folk songs,
Sure.
more. But we did get to place because of Jerry Ganelli and Noel Jukes that
Dude,
we
this is
started
making my, first of all, George
experimenting.
Murubus, I mean, was he in the band? Did George or Flip Nunez?
Oh, Nunez.
Yeah,
They
Flip Nunez. I mean, dude, you could look this the stories on this guy. He would just stare at the audience for 15 minutes and people would just get off on staring at him. He was an insane cat, man. These are my heroes,
Fred
Diane.
Marshall. Fred Marshall.
Fred
Mar-
Marshall had the that crazy bass. He had his own instrument.
yeah, he created a guitar without what was it?
I'm going to look it up. But anyway, I no, but I want
Yeah,
you. So
yeah.
I just where were you at? Um, had the band formed when you were marinating with LSD on the pillows?
Oh, you mean that when I was watching Light Sound Dimension?
Exact. What I'm trying to get at is like
Yeah, I wasn't high at that, but they made me high. The
absolutely. But
music made me high. So I have to tell you the experience though, of being
oh,
there
please, please.
for this, because you go into this room with the pillows on the floor, you sit down, and there's a big screen, and it's dark, and then all of a sudden you hear like water running, like a stream or something, and on the screen, it starts uh, lighten up, and you just see this blue like colors or something that's happening on one side and this water in the stream. But the band is behind the curtain. They're not in front of it. You don't see
Absolutely,
them at all.
absolutely, yeah.
So, and what they did was they were creating just sound. It wasn't like something that was musical necessarily, but it is. But it was like the universe being created, and it was started with this sound of the water, and then they'd slowly come in with another sound, and it was just moving until they got to this point and kept building up and building up and building up, and you just experience this feeling of the sounds that they're making, and then it comes to this point where there's an explosion. They are playing so much stuff that's it's esoteric, what's the word? There's another word I can't find, but it was a huge explosion. And after the explosion, then it started to come back to gentleness again, and softness, and float you back. And some people just did not get it that were there. They'd walk out, what is this? And it was the experience of it that was so, and it was like LSD, it was like
Yeah,
going out
no, I
to
mean
the
it's
universe. It was the
so
universe,
freaking.
coming to
I'm
you.
just so grateful. I want to read you this quote from one of my interviews with Jerry, and this is really funny.
Okay.
He said, Saul Zaentz and Max Weiss, when they had Fantasy, myself, Fred Marshall, Flip Nunez, and Noel Jukes had this quartet called LSD, Light Sound Dimension. Saul said, "You guys are really out, but we'll give you a record. But the length of your tune has to be playable on radio." We brought in this finished thing and said, "Hey, man, it's perfect. It's a 20-minute single." They said, "Get out of here. Go away." So they said, LSD played Bill Ham's studio. We played The Matrix, and that's where the Dead would come, and Pink Floyd. Then we
Mhm.
did the Museum of Art, and then we made our own theater. We called it the LSD Theater. It was on California Street. R. Crumb and the other poster artists gave us a lot of their work to put up in the club. We got the money up front from drug dealers, painted the walls black, put in all hardwood floors, a 40-foot rear projection screen, which we were able to buy through the kindness of all the patrons in this dope business, and built this backstage area. We played behind a curtain. There was a quadraphonic system, and you'd lie down on rugs and pillows, and the lights would go completely black, and an hour later, we'd finish the piece. Just like, I mean, that is, I
That's
mean,
it.
and that was 1967.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about not necessarily the style of the cups, but how did it change your philosophy as it related to rhythm after experience being learning under the tutelage of Grinelli. And really, I mean, what the bottom line is, it's just about how big a vocabulary you have, because there's a fine line between sound and noise. And
Mm.
if those cats didn't have a big vocabulary of music, it would have been a train wreck. But because they really knew they could hear and they could really play, it was a sound bath, for lack of a better word. And I just kind of wanted you to talk about uh, basically how you grew as a rhythmist after after being under the tutelage of Grinelli.
Yeah, after Grinelli, I wasn't stuck in just playing what was called for.
Right.
I would be listening to other rhythms in the band or somebody and pick up on a rhythm, and I would hear that as well as what they say. Always listen to the bass player, but I found out if you expand your head and listen to the rhythm that a keyboard is playing, because they're also percussion instrument,
Absolutely.
the keyboard,
Yep.
or the guitar riff or something in there. And, when everything fits together like a puzzle, I love that, 'cause, lately I've been playing with some drum circles and stuff. So where everybody has their part, but when they all play together, it makes up the rhythm.
Absolutely. No, it sounds incredibly complex, but everybody has their own part, and then it all fits together into this puzzle. Yeah.
But then there's a point where, well, like with Jerry, like anything goes. He could do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You just cut it loose, and it's like, I mean, like you learn to play the wrong notes, because there are no wrong notes. I mean, these cats were just from. I mean, were you going to the Trident to see Denny Zeitlin and Vince Guaraldi and those cats? Were you into jazz?
Actually, Jerry Gannelli took me to the Both and.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh, what's his name? Oh.
Would you get to see Bobby Hutcherson or Woody Shaw or Freddie Hubbard? Or...
the drummer. The drummer.
Max Roach or
no? He was 21 years old.
Oh, Tony Williams.
Tony Williams. That's it.
Holy cow! You saw Tony? What was he? Was he with Miles, or he had his own band?
I was so into watching him that I don't even know what the band.
But chances are you would have.
It was Tony Williams, and I was glued to watching him play. Yeah. And he was only 21 years old. And then I actually went to see him again at the American Music Hall for his 30th birthday. And so his 21st birthday is when I saw him, and then his 30th birthday at the American Music Hall. And but Jerry Gannelli was, person introducing me to jazz, is what he was doing. He was introducing me jazz and improvisation. That's what he wanted to come out of me. And he was able to get that to happen by getting me to just let go, just let go, just keep playing. And he made me play so really fast too, beyond what I could play fast, to see what would come out, And a lot of times in the band too, you hear something in your head and you want to play it, and it's coming up and it's coming out. And sometimes it's right in the moment. And if you just go for it, hopefully it's not from your ego, because it won't work. It has to come in from your head, from your heart. And this it's a gift. It's when you open up in your chakras, everything, and you let the music take you, and then the music plays itself. It's only happened to me a few times, when it did, I was lost in it.
Yeah, it kind of makes everything worth it at that point,
It does. Oh my God, that's the artist's dream, and that's the zone. That's the place.
That's the zone. The zone is the zone. I mean, this. By the way, you saw him. If it was in fact his 21st birthday, you saw the second great Miles quintet of Wayne Shorter, Herbie, Ron Carter, Miles, and Tony. I mean, that is in 1960. He turned 21 in 1966. Okay. 66. So yeah, I mean, because I would have assumed once he started Lifetime, I'm sure you would have remembered, like, if it was John McLaughlin playing with him. But he was still just a sideman with Miles. Still, he was so young, and he was he was fusing all of the different genres together in a very sophisticated fashion, and sort of just um, like almost an out of body experience. But I wonder, I mean, can you just talk a little from your perspective? It's always been fascinating to me, but I mean, why did Jimi Hendrix give your band his blessing, do you think?
Um, well, he saw us for the first time when we opened for him in 1967 in July at the in Golden Gate Park at the
Wow.
Panhandle, and he was blown away because we were all women, for one, and then he made the comment that Mary Ellen Simpson, our guitarist, he said that she was great. He wrote that up in Melody
That
Mac,
is so, she is great. I mean, dude, that's such a great compliment, though.
and she learned too. I mean, Jerry Ganelli came to the whole band. It wasn't just drums. He came and just gave suggestions to the whole band. Like Mary Ellen, she's there playing. He goes, "Okay, now play as fast as you can." Usually people want you to play everything really slow, so you can get it down and everything. She said, play as fast as you can on that thing. So she started playing, and because she couldn't think, it took her beyond the thinking that her fingers had to do the work and just come up with something. It
Well,
was,
I mean, that's what I try to do. I mean, as a journalist, as a patron, as I mean, to me, it is all about. Um, I try to make this as little as less convoluted as possible, but I think a dear friend of mine, Michael Shreve, who I've done about 6 interviews with, he back in the day, whether it was Winterland or the Fillmore West, you didn't have this interface you didn't have all these distractions. So you were going, and maybe you were high on acid or mescaline or weed or whatever, but um, his comment was, how do you expect the audience to quote unquote go there, meaning in the spirit mind, if
mm,
the band doesn't go there first? So the
mm,
onus was kind of on the band to start cooking in
mm,
order for everything to sort of go, elevate collective consciousness. And just from my point of view, I don't care what kind of music it is. I mean, I'm outside of the symphony, which is just really square. It's like, if you're going to, I am not going to wait for the musicians to go there. I am going to take tribal energy and bust them out of their thinking mind so that they all can get into the spirit mind as quickly as possible, because we have all these distractions today. A lot of it's
mm,
visual. We have the computer in our hand. We have people talking over the the live music experience. People have lost the significance of that. So I try to take a tribal urgency to the bandstand, because what you're talking about is like leaving the thinking mind and entering the spirit mind. And it's a very vulnerable experience for people, but it's truly how you keep growing as a musician.
yes. Oh, the tribal mind. That's really
And believe me, I get a lot of blowback from really square people who are furious. They're watching, they're not playing, they're watching my videos on social media, and they're screaming. I'm like, dude, don't watch the video, man. But like, the truth of the matter is, the cats that I'm playing for, they feel that energy. I mean, it's just like the fourth quarter of a Niners game, and they're down
mm,
7 points, and you want them to score into the end zone. I mean, this is not about sitting on your hands or talking over the music. I mean, if you like, it is jarring for people, because we have truly forgotten about the magic healing qualities of spiritual music. And that's the
mm,
greatest thing about what was going on at that time, is just this fucking approach that guys like, Jerry Granelli was secure enough. First of all, there was enough work to go around, but at the same time, here's this guy playing on Vince Guaraldi records, and yet he's coming in and pushing your psychedelic rock band to even higher levels. So there was all this collaboration. There was a beautiful community. I do feel like were you guys able to Um, I mean, the magic thing about everybody lived in the Haight at that time, and everybody that lived there was an artist. I wonder about um, like how many gigs a week would you say the Ace of Cups were able to? Not the big, obviously you had the seminal gigs like the opening for Hendrix or things like that, but like were you guys able to sing for your supper playing live?
At first, uh, we were just playing to play.
Right.
No particular reason. We just came together, uh, just organically, and we all loved to play, and we just happened to be girls, and um, we would just love getting together, and so it was just for the music, and then that kind of evolved, and we got a manager who got us. He was a friend of Mary Ellen's, and he got us a gig down the street. I think it was at this bar. I can't remember much. We did that once, and then Denise met uh, Ambrose Hollingsworth, who who actually had been the drummer for Quicksilver, but he got in this horrible car accident, and
Wow. And
uh,
Greg Elmore took his place.
yes, and but then he kept on going by managing them and us. He took
Wow.
us because uh, Denise met him, and then she told him about us, and then we came to see him. We sang for him, and that was it. He wanted to be our manager and book us, and so he started helping, and that was great. Uh, yeah, we just uh, he got us a house that we started going to the heliport to rehearse and stuff, and that's where Jerry Ganelli was teaching me about playing free and just hitting the drums. Don't worry about your sticks, how you hold them. Just play, hit the drum, but just play, and don't sit down to just with a beat or something. Just sit down, hit the drums, and let it come out. And it worked. Almost got out off the subject. Wait, ask me, ask me the
No,
question.
you go where this is the kind of interview. You just go where your mind takes you.
Okay, it's going.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you wanted to know how often we were playing. So
No, you
after,
know what it is. I know you because you. I just literally before you said the word, I wrote down heliport because whether I don't know. Did you ever cross paths with Bob Jones?
absolutely, he
He's
was
a dear,
fantastic.
dear, dear, dear.
Gosh,
I got to send you my interview with him because that cat was so ridiculous. Such a great player, such a beautiful human being. And I'm like trying to figure out because you met Ambrose, and I'm thinking at that point, that's you must have gone over to Gino Cipollina's house where John was.
I was there once.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I was there once to hang with Mario and his late sister, but I mean,
right.
again, you have to realize, I mean, at 47, this is completely a fantasy to me. I cannot believe. Were you playing the Fillmore West opening for Quicksilver?
Not. Yes, yes, yes.
Fillmore West,
West.
in the
Yeah.
Fillmore district. You guys were
Oh
once,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We opened for Quicksilver a lot because Ambrose, was booking them. And then see, Ambrose wanted us to, he started the 6-day school in Sonoma, this property with a little pond on it.
Whoa,
And he was
whoa,
starting this
whoa.
whole other community. So, because he said all these, cities and stuff, they're not going to exist. You're going to everybody needs to come together and help each other. So no one got paid anything. Everybody trade services. Somebody was a mechanic, they could help somebody with their car, and that person was an artist, and they give them something that in an exchange. So it was an exchange play. He wanted us to live there and record there and get it all done there and just record, not to go out and do gigs. But we wanted to play. We wanted to do gigs for people. We didn't want to just stay here. We wanted to get out in the world. So he was generous enough to know what we wanted, and he turned us over to Ron Pulte, who then started booking us and took over Quicksilver. and started booking us, opening for Quicksilver, the Phoenix. I'm trying to think of
The Avalon, probably the Avalon Ball.
we started out at the Avalon.
Right.
But my big goal was, the big time will be if we got to play at the Avalon, and we did. And then my big goal to play at the Fillmore. Then we did. And then Winterland, we opened for the band with the Sons of Champlin.
Well, and that to me, that was the first time the band had that was the first time they played the Fillmore West. Was that the significance of that show?
Right. That's right. And they just had come out with the Big Pink.
Oh my gosh. And you opened for them.
And we opened for them, yeah. And it was jam-packed. And it was at Winterland, huge.
Can you talk about like the sort of just the idea of, I mean, Janice was a forerunner as a band leader, but her band was not all female. But being in the San Francisco area and being around guys like John and, Cipollina and Bloomfield and Granelli and guys from the Dead. I mean, did you feel like you were respected?
Yes.
Or did you really have to hold your ground? I mean, this was not like.
We got respect.
You got respect.
Yes, we got respect and help too. Michael Bloomfield, I think maybe he was hired. I'm not sure, but he was sent over to our heliport to help. He had a song. That's right. He wanted Marla to sing because Marla just had the most beautiful voice, and he had the song. I guess we named it Michael's song, and she sang it for a while. We were singing it, and he was hoping that we'd, get an album out or something and put it on it, but that never happened. So we finally did record it with the other ladies,
Betty Cantor Jackson.
Betty Cantor Jackson.
Yeah, she was the Dead. She was the woman that recorded the Dead a lot.
Okay, maybe. Oh yes, I met her once. Yeah. Right, she did. That's right. Betty Cantor Jackson. So
I was going to say, I mean, it's just so funny because I've had this CD sitting on my table since Denise gave it to me. It's the Big Beat that I want.
The first album. I mean, CD. The CD that came out of just the live performances.
Well, I want you to talk about this one track in particular.
Okay.
Boy, what do you do then? Denise's company.
Yeah, that wasn't Ace of Cups at all. That was Denise's and Ace Records, which happens to be a company that was in the UK, and Alec Palau, who was their consultant, loved that song, and he loved that song, and so he wanted that song to be get it recorded, and so then Denise told him about our band as well, so he got interested in that, and that came about. So that's why that song is on there.
Now, and so that's just her solo, or that's a different band?
That's a whole different band.
Okay, so let's talk about. I'm just going to read down for the audience.
We did redo that song though on our latest albums. We redid it when we did the song ourselves.
I mean, you're doing a cover. Can you? So I just want to be clear. It says this fascinating anthology drawn from demos, live tapes, and a rare pre-cups Garage 45, which is the one you're talking about, right? Yeah. So did you actually get did any of this stuff come from, what studios did you record demos on? Or was it up at Ambrose's place in Sonoma?
No, this wasn't studio stuff. This was live from the performances. Ron Pulte had his his brother, Frank Pulte, bring all this recording gear. He was just learning. He's learning. Everybody's learning during this time, even Ron Pulte, at being a manager, because he was from Chicago. He came out here with Nick Ravenitis, and they decided they're going to go into this music business stuff, and So anyway, Ron Pulte. Oh, where I just started lost myself here.
No, you know what it is. So they're going back to they're all live tracks. None of them.
Right.
You never even went into Coast Recorders or any Pacific High Recorders. You never even put anything down on tape in the studio as a band.
Except for one song, and that was Marla's song. Oh, what's the name of it? Oh, okay.
Is it on the? I'll read off the compilation, and you can tell me what song it is.
Okay. Good way.
First tune is Music,
right?
Glue, Taste of One, Stones, Looking for My Man, Afro
Looking
Loop,
for My Man.
Looking for My. That was what studio was that in?
That was Marty Ballin recorded us on a 4-track at their house that was in on Stanton Street. The Stanton Street.
Oh my God! So this wasn't okay. So this was the Airplane's house.
Yes.
It wasn't the Matrix, because Marty, I think, owned that club too, or something. The that jam space in down San Francisco.
He was interested in us, and
wow. So anyway. That's the one. So he recorded that on a 4. Unbelievable.
4-track.
The rest of it is later we got the rest of it is but the rest of it is Pulte recordings from different,
right, live gigs from the Fillmore, from the Avalon, from the straight. I don't know if he did the Straight Theater or not.
Straight Theater was huge. I remember Champlin talking about that.
Right, that was It's all Sly and the Family Stone there, and we played there.
Did you go? Did you ever? I mean, I remember some of the David Garibaldi telling me about going on sort of a Chitlin circuit run in Richmond and playing strip club. I mean, did you guys ever? You just played regionally? Did you even do a regional tour at all, or no?
Oh, we went to Chicago.
Oh,
and played our set with Quicksilver too, and the rest were all these blues bands. Buddy Guy, and Sam Lay.
Oh God, forget about it. Butterfield, unbelievable.
It was Butterfield Blues Band, and Sam Lay really liked us, and he invited us after the show, which is the big auditorium there. They were playing after the show to go on the South Side to his own personal bar that he runs and play for them.
Whoa! So wait, he owned his own. He had his own bar.
Well, I don't know if he was just the musical.
No. I mean, he was a heavy cat. I mean, regardless, it was South Side.
South Side. Yeah. Oh, so we got in a cab with our manager, and then so Ron Pulte is I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sometimes you try so hard, and it's like once you forget it, then it'll come to you. John Cipollina. See, I had to change the subject.
Sure.
John Cipollina said, "Oh, I want to go too." So he got the cab. We're all just cramped into this cab, and we go to the South Side, and we get out of the car. Here we are, 5 women with the 2 guys, and we walk in there, and Sam Lay's there. Oh, thank you for coming, and every it's all black club, and they're all looking at what is going on here, and the band is playing. We watch the band, and then Sam Lay has us go up and play for them. So we get up there, and we play better than we had ever played, for the other event. We just relaxed. We felt so much love there that they were giving to us and support, and we played for them, and it was just awesome. We're just like, wow, this was worth the whole trip to New York.
It was Chicago, right?
I meant Chicago. Yeah.
And also for the record, it was Cipollina and was Sam.
Pulte.
Say again. Oh, and Pulte. And Pulte. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm curious because I know that like I've interviewed all the merry pranksters. Did you ever cross paths with Ken Kesey and those cats?
I knew that through Denise that they were there. I've seen them at conferences. I've gone to one acid tests that they had.
Well, can you talk about that
But
experience? I mean, because they did the Soquel one and they did the Longshoremen's Hall. Which one did you go
oh,
to?
the longshoremen's. I think that was it.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was that was a very greasy night.
it's vague. It's kind
Right. Well, no,
of
but the reason I
vague.
asked that is because they skipped out of town and headed up to Springfield, Oregon, in the late '60s. Ken Babbs and Kesey and those cats, and I noticed that you just another amazing. You wound up in the street choir with Marla Hunt Hansen
Yes.
and I. So did you eventually? How quickly did you actually move out to Marin County?
Um, just time in Marin, we went through these phases that was just great, and everybody's love and flowers and just sharing everything is wonderful. There's a free store, the Diggers. Peter Coyote started that free store, and just wonderful things. And then, of course, the medical, what's it called? Anyway,
Yeah, I know what
free
you're
medical.
talking. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is a whole, community just growing together in this beautiful thing. And then, things started changing. People started finding out about it. Buses are coming through town and, gawkers and everything. And then a lot of kids came in and thought they wanted to be a part of this. And then there's no food. And then the drug scene just ruined everything.
Hmm.
uh, you know, just heavy drugs came in, and all these young people started doing that instead of, you know, everything that had been
Well,
gone
I mean, you're
through.
you're talking about it like LSD and marijuana
Speed.
were
I'm
traded
talking
in for coke.
speed
Yeah,
and
coke. Yeah.
yeah, and coke and whatever else, heroin, and it started getting really bad.
Well, before we go into,
Homeless
I don't
people.
because I know it did get dark and
And that's
debaucherous.
when we moved. That's when everyone started seeing that this is not what we, was. So now it's time to migrate. It's time to migrate. And everyone in Marin County or Oregon or, Washington, people just headed out. And a lot of people, wanted to start their own, uh, you know, their gardens and live off the land. And there's, just
No,
wanted
I
to
think you're
spread
you're you're
what we
I mean,
learned.
you're talking as if you were there, which you were. I mean, basically, what year did you? So was the band first? And also, I have to ask you. I mean, can you talk about your guys? How important Bill Graham or um or Chet Helms were to you
Chad
as
Helms
well?
was, the first one that started booking bands. Really nice person. And then Bill Graham came in, and he did a great job. What he brought was variety to everyone because he'd have, uh, uh,
Oh, the best, the
yeah,
freaking best,
just a
freaking
great,
best.
great jazz. And then the next band, because it'll be a bill of at least three bands. It's never one band playing at a club. There's three or four bands.
Oh my God, it was miles into the Grateful Dead. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous.
Right. So you can,
But
so
that
he
was the whole thing. I mean, the Isle of Wight festival. I remember when I interviewed Dave Holland, who was playing bass for Miles at the time. He said at the Isle of Wight festival in 1970, Miles, the act before Miles was Tiny Tim. It was just like it was so out. It was so out, and it's so sad how we've gotten to this point today where it's gotten so perverted. You go to a blues festival, there's not one black band. You go to a jazz
and there's no
festival,
blues.
no blues, and then you go to a jazz festival and it's all R&B. It's bizarre what has happened or it's
Yeah.
bizarre. But so you made the entire band made the decision to move to Mill Valley.
Uh, yeah. Well, I was still living on Diamond Street, uh,
Wow.
um, where Gary Duncan had moved out of this one apartment, and I moved in on that top floor. On that the top floor would actually wave with the wind. That was weird.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, it would
Wow.
move. It would move with the wind. But anyway, and I could always from the window see Marin County, and it's like green, and it's like, oh my God, So yeah, I was still living there when they got the heliport, rented the heliport, and so for a while I was taking the bus to the heliport
Sure.
until I was married at the time, but then we separated, and I moved into the heliport in a tiny room that was upstairs, and lived there for a while. Um, and then I moved in with Marla on Madrone Canyon and Larkspur. But yeah, we all felt, you feel the pull, and we were pulled to Marin County, and it's gorgeous,
Oh
and
God.
just beautiful, and then having the heliport there with all these different bands there. We just had the heliport because we got to share it with Quicksilver, because it was actually they had it first. Poor guys, here come the girls. We've got to share it with them. So,
But I mean, all the cats were down there, man. I
yeah,
mean,
they're all there.
yeah.
There's all kinds of different places there that for people to play. The Suns upstairs, and all these people.
I wanted to talk to you about the song. To me, the I want to just go through. You can free associate. It's such an honor to be able to do this game with you.
Oh, I love
Um,
it.
but I'm going to just ask you about a drummer and give me a first word that comes to your mind.
Hmm.
Um, Jim Preston.
Tight, concise presence, funky, technical.
I freaking love, dude. He was in my, as I've listened, I'm not like,
Groove oriented.
the dude was the nastiest player of all those drummers by far. He was I mean, okay, so let's just keep going here.
Okay.
I'm talking about the psychedelic Bay Area scene for the moment. So, Preston,
I took a lesson from him
you
for
did.
one lesson, yeah. And then he suggested that I go to his teacher, which was Chuck Brown.
Chuck Brown. Oh boy, here we go. Are you kidding me? You took lessons with Chuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God, because Blumenfeld, I mean, those guys swear by Chuck Brown, dude.
Oh,
He
Blue,
was,
you're talking about Roy?
yeah,
Oh,
my
yeah.
yeah, my dear
Yeah.
brother. He wound up he
Yes.
wound up moving to Iverness with his first wife. I can't remember. They pull into this driveway. There's a light on. They're lost. He knocks on the door. The
I
guy
heard that
opens.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you love the story, and he walks in and he doesn't know who it is, but he's like he sees the guy as a tape recorder, and he's like, "What are you recording?" He's like, "Oh, my wife's snoring. I want to prove to her that she's a." Turns out it's Chuck Brown, man.
Yes. And he had gotten his card several
Hold on,
years.
wait, hold on. So Chuck Brown, you took a lesson from Chuck Brown in the early 1970s.
uh, after Jerry Ganelli. After
Oh my
Jerry
God.
Ganelli.
Talk about that.
It's
That's insane.
total, complete difference,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I was open to, okay, now it's time for me to work on my hands.
Right.
My chops up too. And yeah, me and Roy had these conversations because we actually played in this band um, uh, just recently together, two drummers. And we had a lot of conversations about Chuck, because we both took lessons from him and stuff. So with Chuck, it was about technique.
Right.
That was it. That was it. And but dynamics too. How hard you can hit something or how soft this, and totally opposite of Jerry. Actually, Jerry, when he found out I was, because he couldn't teach me anymore, he was moving away and stuff. He was worried at first that I might lose, being able to just play.
Right. No, there's that school, that Chuck Brown school is a lot of guys who like a lot of the cats who felt like they might have be getting too free would go back and shed with him, sort of get those rudiments. The problem is that he was kind of a I don't want to say drill sergeant, but that was his bag.
Yeah.
And, and it was, so
and there's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't. No, there's not. But it would, so Grinelli was probably going off to Naropa at that point.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
he was playing with dancers and Art Landy, and Ginsberg was ripping poetry and shit.
It was a drummer for a jugglist.
Dude, just get me back there.
He's done all kinds of stuff. But I just wanted to say that Jared Grinelli did say, I was worried at first, but I realized you already know how to play. So that's not going to hinder you by do that. But have been some drummers who did the same thing as, where they come in there, they hadn't had any experience playing before, and they just learned the technique, and they do get stuck like that too.
That's a really interesting, because I've never thought about it like that, but because of that, I don't even think he is a polarizing figure to a degree, Chuck Brown, because he's not a household name, but yet all the greatest drummers took lessons from him.
Right.
So it's that idea of relentless rudimentary technique, but then how do you get out of your bedroom? Do you ever play live? Do you ever want to play with people? That's like a conundrum,
Right.
There's a place. I want to be clear though. Were you guys the Ace of Cups was still even when you moved into Marla's place, were you guys still together, or had you dissolved at that point?
Oh no, we're still together. Yeah.
And you were playing were you playing in Marin County, or were you going back into San Francisco to play?
We're going to San Francisco to play, and we started playing. I think we played the Lion's Share.
Oh yeah, San Anselmo, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then
Marty Ballin had that great that he had the Matrix. That was an incredible venue.
Right. We played there. Yeah. Right, the Matrix, and
did you feel like you guys?
You know what? We played in Berkeley for
But you played the New Orleans house?
The New Orleans house, yeah. Kitty was her name.
Yeah.
She served spaghetti for the bands when they played.
I freaking love this. No, I mean, also, you must have crossed
We played there a lot.
Well, because my favorite band, I mean, truly, they might be my favorite. Well, they one of my favorite bands is The Fourth Way. Did you see them before? Eddie Marshall, Michael White, Ron McClure, and Mike Knock. They used to play. They were explosive fusion. They were pre-Weather Report fusion band.
Yeah.
And so you played. Did you feel like the Aces were you guys growing as a band, or do you feel like sort of some of that early magic sort of? I'm just curious because Fanny came out soon after. I mean, you were the first all-female band though, and it just seems to be like
Fanny came out in the 1970, I think, and played the Fillmore, and I went there, to see them.
Yeah.
But we actually started in 66, and then New Year's Eve of 66, going into 67. Denise joined the band there, after meeting Mary Ellen at the Blue Cheers house. So then we were officially a 5-piece band in 67, but we actually started in 66.
Wow. So I'm sorry, it was you
Mary
guys
Gannon was the first she saw me playing drums in this room that this drummer let me play his drum set or something. I thought it was a party or something, but she said, no, you were alone playing. And she heard it. She was visiting some friends and she came in the room. It was on Clayton Street, this Victorian house. And I was playing and she came in there. Oh my God, woman drummer. She goes, let's start a woman's band. She's never even played an instrument. And she was getting together already with Marla, and they lived on Waller Street. And she invited me to come over there and met Marla, and we sang a little bit. And I didn't even have a snare drum. I didn't have any drums of my own. And Mary Gannon, she decided she was going to be the bass player. She'd never even played bass. I mean, this is amazing. That's why I said it was very organic. And Marla, had been playing piano since she was 4, and just all these wonderful, gospel type songs and this.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean that.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say like.
Well, we just got together too. Me and Marla, we just did some recording together, singing together. With
I love her and Clyde so much. They let me stay at their place. They're such sweet people, man.
Oh, right, you stayed there. How great!
In Navajo, in Vallejo.
Vallejo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that freaking the greatest. You tell them about Jake Feinberg, they're gonna freak out.
I
No,
will. I
what's
will.
that? Yeah, no, I mean it sounds cliche, but I mean it. There's no doubt that you guys were completely influenced by, not even in musically, just the idea of being skiffle players like the Beatles, right? I mean, like it was just like obviously there was a women's liberation movement going on as well, but the idea that you never played bass, so what? I'll just pick it up and learn it, and I will,
Oh my God. Yeah, that's like, wow. Yeah. No
because
back,
the only
no
band, I mean, the
boundaries.
only band, truly, I mean, of that entire cross section. I mean, some people will beg to differ, but uh, the only band, the band with the most musical acumen were the Sons of Champlin. That
Yeah.
was it. Okay. Sly Stone, those guys were skiffle players.
Yeah.
I mean, Sly was a DJ. Jefferson Airplane, don't get me wrong, all great players, but really coming out of the folk bag. I mean, Yorma came out of the folk scene. Jack was a blues guy. The Dead were all skiffle players for the most part. Jerry played banjo. Santana, I mean, Michael Carabello told me that when they opened for Charles Lloyd, it was the Carlos Santana Blues Band. They couldn't even, they didn't even have bridges to their songs. So that, you have, and then, so the Dead, Jefferson, Quicksilver was a heavy influence. But I mean, I look at all those bands, all of them were art school, sort of a big brother of the holding company. These guys
Mhm.
were complete skiffle players. Maybe they took some lessons here and there. Nobody was coming out of the conservatory, but the Sons of Champlin
Oh,
with
yeah.
Preston, Haggerty, Jeff
Yeah.
Palmer, Bill, obviously. I mean, that stuff was the
Tim
they
Kaine,
yeah.
Tim Kaine.
I mean, Bloomfield, like those guys were great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like the Suns get lost in the shuffle all the time, and part of it's probably just sort of the way things are. But I just always look at them, and at first I couldn't really get my ear around a lot of their music, and now I just turn to it almost all the time. It's just such a it's really such beautiful stuff. But like it was cool at that time in the Bay Area to be a skiffle player, right? I mean,
Mhm.
right? You
Yeah.
just put a
Yeah.
band together and let's try to make something musical.
And you grow that way. And we did grow up to a certain point. And then we started do experimenting too because of Jerry and
And
Noel
Noel,
Jukes,
yeah.
trying to be jazzers. We never made it to that point. That was an experiment. We came up with, this one time, for instance, we had this gig and there was conga players in the audience. And before we started, and I just got behind the drums and I started playing with the conga players. And then Denise and Mary got on stage and they started playing to that. And then, Marla got on stage, kind of wasn't sure, what is this? It's happening. And we just jammed with the conga players for, like the first set.
Oh my God.
Because it happened, and that was pretty cool.
Well, because I mean, I think
Spontaneous, it just something happened and we just something musical came out of that. That was pretty cool.
well, I mean, it was like I know Armando Peraza was hanging around there, and Mongo Santa Maria. You guys did Afro Blue, but I mean, like
Right.
you're just talking you're talking about random percussion, because that was the thing in Berkeley too. I mean, you just set up in the quad at Berkeley, and bands
And
came out of
played.
that.
Right. Oh yeah.
Ultimately, though, what was the not that it was, I mean, it seemed that a lot of record contracts were being handed out at that time. Moby Grape, Rubinson had them on Columbia. I'm not saying that it wasn't a racket, and I'm not saying that there wasn't a lot of shyster and bullshit going on, but were you guys actually ever offered a record deal?
The closest we came was 1967 on Mount Tam. Ambrose Hollingsworth had us play for the Festival of Growing Things.
Wow.
And Janice played that day. A lot of people had already signed. We were there. Warner Brothers was interested in us. And he was talking to Ambrose. And then Ambrose took us to the side and said that this record company was interested in us, but he thought that we should hold out. Denise might say that wasn't true, or somebody else, that we weren't offered it.
You remember it that way, though.
But I remember it that way, and they wanted us, and I remember him saying that let's hold out. You guys are worth much more. So that was a mistake. There I am, just giving my opinion.
I think it's great. Listen, everybody has. I've interviewed Marla. I've interviewed Denise. I actually don't even really get that. I wasn't there, so I'm not really emotionally attached to it. But
Right.
it's like, I believe that, that, listen, that's the way it went down, and
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any sense. But clearly the window closed once Fanny
Well, we got with Ron Pulte, and I think pretty much that same thing kind of happened. And Capitol Records was willing to listen to us, but they were at the heliport. They had like about 5 minutes that they're going to catch the heliport and go to the airport.
Yeah.
They had about 5 minutes that they were willing to listen to us. So Ron was there. They came to listen to us because they had signed Quicksilver, and here we are. This Ron's second band, and I don't know if we chose the wrong song or what.
I mean, what are you supposed to do in 5 minutes? I don't get
that. So we had to choose really quickly, and it may not be. It just didn't hit them as that they didn't get it. They didn't get it in that 5 minutes. One song, it might wasn't the right song for them to hear or whatever, but they didn't choose us. So that was too bad, because they would have done well. And so but that was the only closest we came to, getting interest.
You have any idea, like, did Ambrose ever tell you what the deals of that contract was? It like a one-off kind of thing? Like, did you have?
I remember something like $40,000 or something.
Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is because the record companies were awash in so much money that they were handing out record. I mean,
yeah,
that that is either way. It's just like, for those of people that are going to listen to this interview, 5 minutes, 15 years, 50 years, long after we left this planet,
Mm,
what is the legacy? What is the essence of the Ace of Cups?
mm. Let's see. God, that's a good one. Let's see. Oh,
I mean, it's fair to say there were plenty of female folk bands. You were the first electric rock
rock
female all
band.
female group.
Yeah, from the Bay Area, the very first, in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was, women, outside the outskirts of the Bay Area, but in the Bay Area, playing the ballrooms in San Francisco was the very first all women rock band, playing the Fillmore and the Avalon, and being a part of that whole era. So our legacy is the women, who 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 came out of the closet, and became, uh, a legend. We're legends. That's what people keep telling me. I'm a legend. Ooh, that sounds kind
Well,
of
no, I mean, you were the first ones to plug in, and actually you guys were a musical band. I mean, it
right.
wasn't noise. Like, you could get up and do a really good set of music and get people
Yeah,
off,
and they're all original tunes too.
Oh, that
There's
was
only
the other
one or
cat.
two.
The
Right?
original, exactly, no covers, originals.
There's no, one or two covers that we did
Were
ever.
there under the radar? I mean, were there other female electric bands that just were on the outskirts or down in San Jose that you knew? Like, was there like
I
top?
didn't know them, but I heard about them later. Um, that were, uh, you know, folk kind of oriented,
Yeah.
and uh, maybe some rock too. But in Europe, there was a all woman band. I guess they were 1965.
Whoa, what band? What was their name?
Oh gosh,
I'll have to
I
look it up.
remember. Yeah, it was
Wow.
1965, and their story is very similar to ours. That's what I was really impressed with. I'm sorry I can't remember their name right now, but
No,
their story. They were they doing a lot of cover work from the Beatles, and even dressed like the Beatles. And
oh, they were called the Liverbirds.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The magic of technology in these days.
You
Yeah,
look
the
so funny.
Liverbirds.
Yes.
There was a couple. There's just
Their story, though, is very similar
I'll
to.
have to check them out. That's pretty. So, did you would you didn't know about them till later? They weren't an influence on you guys, or did you know?
No,
Yeah,
we had no influence as
yeah,
far as
right. You were
women drummers or anything.
right.
My influence was, in grammar school, seeing a marching band come through and watching the snare drummers, play, and just thinking that was like incredible. But no one would allow me to play the snare drum in the schools all the way through high school. No, I wasn't allowed to until I got out in the world and just started going to clubs, and then asked the drummer to, would you show me something? And out of his heart, he said, come back on a Sunday, showed me a few beats, had me sit down and play them, taught me how to play them. And every Sunday he'd have me come and play, and the band would play to me. And that was like, so they would play the rhythm that I could play, and I got a little bit faster each week. And that was like, then I was hooked. So that's my story.
I'm not sure how thriving it was. I mean, clearly the Fillmore district was still on fire when you were there. Did you go to North Beach at all, Carol Dota's club, or did you go to Bop City or anything? I mean, because those cats were swinging. I mean, that Grinelli used to play there. I mean, he used
That's right. Yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean,
Pete Magadini was my last
well, no,
drum.
I mean that man was one of my. I mean, I started my show in
He played
2011
down there too. One of his longtime gigs was there
at
in
Bop
North Beach.
City. No, dude, that guy was
Oh,
at was became obviously around the same time that the Ace of Cups was percolating. He was completely fanatical about polyrhythms, and
mm-hmm.
he started to take classes in tabla at the Ali Akbar Khan school, and it went from a class of 50 down to a class of 4, And one of the cats in that class was a guy named Richard Alpert, later known as Ramdas. I mean,
Oh,
that's how far back Magadini was
whew.
playing. He was playing the half note to hippies in sandals and bare feet with George Duke and Al Jarreau.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable the
Yeah.
lineage of the music there. I mean, even though you weren't playing jazz, were you? I mean, how often did you go to the both end? Was that the only time you went with Jerry?
Uh, yeah, that's the only time. But I did go down to the
The
North Beach
Blackhawk or
and North Beach. Oh God, what's the band? Oh, oh God. But I was more into R&B. You know, I love
right? You were like into Lydia Pence and that kind of Cold Blood and
I love that because my junior high is where I really I listened to KDIA and the soul stations, and
right.
I just love that stuff. But the jazz funk is my favorite.
Yeah, the loading zone too,
Oh yeah, Loading Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul Farso's a dear friend. I mean, Diane, honestly, Pete Magadini was like I started doing I was on AM radio in Tucson where I lived, and I was doing kind of socio-political stuff, and then one day I just had this enlightenment come through me about reaching into records and pulling out musicians to interview, and I started interviewing all these jazzers like Pat Martino and Jack DeJohnette and Dave Brubeck and all these cats, and then I discovered Pete. I think Pete was like maybe my fifth or sixth interview, and just to know how amazing the rhythms of the time were unbelievable in the Bay Area. It was
mm,
unparalleled. I mean, and there was Jackson Sutter, late night organ club, and you'd have, I don't know if you ever made it over to the Keystone Corner in
yeah,
Burt. Yeah,
yeah.
it's Todd Barkin, sickest venue ever.
Yeah,
And
just wondering.
I mean, it's really I feel. Do you still feel like? I mean, I we're gonna have to do set two, Diane, because we've been cooking here for about an hour
Yeah.
and 10 minutes. But
Yeah, I tell you more about Pete Magadini, because
absolutely
he's in between Jerry Ganelli and uh, uh, uh,
Preston.
yeah, Chuck Brown.
Oh, Chuck Brown.
Yeah, he's in between. He was in the next level up, which it's like a combination of both those drummers into Pete Magadini and
You're
beyond.
right. Actually, Pete was like a
And he's a
fanatical technician, but he also knew how
percussionist.
to. Yeah, that's so. Did you go to Drum World at all? It
I
was
worked there for a while on
wow.
Mission Street.
Yeah.
Bob, I think was his name, the owner.
I mean,
And
he never. I mean, like Grinelli was like telling me that, like, you'd walk in and like Papa Joe Jones might be in there. You never knew who was in there.
yeah, there's the one that was in Oakland. That that was drummers. I guess that was Drum World.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't.
yeah,
I'm not. I just know, like, I'm curious actually because that's the other scene was that whole Oakland scene with Tower of Power and but in Oakland they Everett Barksdale had all these great R&B clubs. James Brown and the Flames would come in there, and that
yeah.
was the funky part of town. I mean, Paul Jackson and Mike Clark, the
Paul
hurt
Jackson, yeah.
Paul Jackson, man. I mean, it was insane what was going on in and around, and yet it's easy for me to you know, I'm not in awe of anybody. I'm not really, I play congas, but I'm not a musician. I love feeling the music and I love interviewing people and writing books and everything I've done, but I'm not in awe of these guys. And I don't know what it would have been like to be a young drummer, looking up and that was my point is that, I remember Michael Shreve telling me that he went to see Mahavishnu Orchestra at I think Winterland, and Billy Cobham at that time was just otherworldly and was so
Mhm.
far beyond. And Michael looked at him. Michael was a jazz fanatic, and he played in the big band at San Mateo Community College, and he loved and he practiced every day, and he was good. And he was already in Santana, but he goes, "I'm I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be me." Okay, like
Mm,
I wanted you to just talk about that philosophy in yourself when you because there are other drummers I've interviewed that they'd open for Mahavishnu Orchestra. They were maybe in Loggins and Musina, and they're playing to a packed place at Boston Common, and they come out all high and mighty, and then they see these guys in like white in like college t-shirts come on, and Billy just blows them off the bandstand, and one of these guys wanted to quit. He just wanted to quit,
Oh,
and it was the same. He was a very accomplished drummer, and his dear, great studio percussionist Milt Holland in L.A. said to this guy, "Well, you're never going to be Billy Cobb. You're never going to be Billy Cobham, and Billy Cobham's never going to be you." Can you talk about how you stayed true to your own sense of time feel, and how you haven't gotten psyched out by uh, just being around people that
yeah. I know what you're saying.
yeah.
It's good to know one's own um, limitations.
That's what
You
Chuck
know,
Rennie told me. Know your strengths. Know your strengths
yeah,
is what he said. Yeah.
know your strengths and appreciate and be inspired by what you see. But I also, at one point, when the drummers around me started doing the double bass drums and going as fast as they can, and I even still see that a lot.
Right.
Then you see some great jazz players, but they're really tasty with all their speed and everything. But then it come down to it, there's drummers like Al Jackson. So
Get
Al
about it. Yeah,
Jackson,
just the groove. I mean, it's just
yeah,
so
totally
good.
groove, just the right uh, fill for that perfect fill for that,
That's
and the
right.
groove is so you feel it so much. Roy Blumenfeld plays like that,
Oh man, yeah,
and that
Roy's feel is
so
so yeah.
he's so musical. So that's the kind of drummer that I choose to try to be like. And I'm not always like that, because sometimes I hear things in my head I want to play because I got influenced by something. It's like Jerry Canelli used to say too, don't listen to anybody. So that way you can develop your own sound, your
Dude,
own
that man, I'm gonna say I did so many cosmic. That man was the most inspirational cat, man. Like
Jerry Canelli.
Jerry Granelli.
Yeah,
But I mean, out of I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of guys that I've endeared myself to through my ability to do interviews, and um, I know and gotten to meet and hang with Garibaldi and Erico and Shreve, and
Mm-hmm.
I've interviewed Greg Elmore. Was a fascinating interview, very quiet, humble guy, but Dave Getz, George Marsh, all these amazing, beautiful people, all these
Mm-hmm.
guys, and really what it was about was like telling a story. I interviewed the late great Randy Weston, the piano player, and he, and I was going back through the interview, listening to it, and he just, it struck me that so many of my friends. I mean, we have an amazing farm system of young cats in Tucson, and it's not about shops, and it's not about facility. It's about concepts and thinking outside the box. But I just listening back to this interview, Randy was like, like I worship, uh, Satchmo, Duke, Ellington. Um, you know, he goes, they're royalty because they told stories through their solos, through their music,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what's missing today. It's not a facility show. I don't care about shops. What do you actually have to say?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much information out there now, and so much of it is visual. We're saturated in it. Most of it's very mediocre. And so, back in the day, what did Diane have at her disposal? You had Tom Donahue playing the best of the best, only records that could, I mean, Aretha Franklin had to clear a bar for the record to come out. So your ears were tuned to the finest of the fine music. And it was, and we were an auditory learning society, so that you weren't influenced by the way somebody was sitting because you didn't have YouTube in front of your face. You were
Mm-hmm.
listening. I know
Yeah,
what Jerry's
to
talking
the
about.
radio, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know what Jerry's talking about. And so it was just like these are just like little things that are just essential to, and here's the point. It's called, what happens then is you get your own individual sound. Nobody sound, you know exactly who it is the minute they start playing. And
Oh,
unfortunately today, with so many musicians, there are just so many more musicians, but on top of that, there's a homogenization of sound. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but it's very hard, especially in instrumental music, to tell who anybody is anymore.
oh, right.
You
God,
know,
never thought about that. Yeah.
well, this is why, yeah, welcome to the Jake Klingberg
Copy.
show. Yeah, no, this honestly, yeah, exactly. It's all about comping. And Jared and Grinelli was the epitome of like F that, like be
Yeah,
yourself. I
exactly.
mean, like don't be sloppy. Don't, I mean, but if you fall off, if you go off the rails, just get back on the
Keep on
track.
going. Yeah,
Yeah,
just keep going.
just
Yeah.
go.
Make that mistake work for you. Yeah.
Diane,
Yeah.
listen,
It's
let's do set two really soon.
it
And
sounds,
please
and
send
you
my
play
love to.
congas? Did you say you play congas?
I do, yeah.
Oh, because we'll talk about that because I'm in two other things that I've been doing with congas and percussion. I'm just loving
Well, it's
it.
absolutely essential. I have, I jam with my friends. I haven't done it in a minute, but do me a favor and please send Marla and Clyde my love.
Oh, absolutely.
They at a certain period in my life, um, they were just incredibly. They came into my life as a spirit family, so I'll always be
Oh,
indebted to
right.
them. Yeah.
Wow.
All
That
right,
is
my friend.
that
We'll
is
talk. We'll talk soon. I hope you had a good
okay.
time. Yeah.
I had a great time. Thank you for bringing out all these memories and wonderful feelings and things. I think I'm so proud right now.
Well,
Thank
we'll do it.
you.
We'll do it again.
All righty.
All right.
Thank
Take care, my
you.
friend.
Okay.
Bye.
Best to you.
All right.
Bye
Bye.
bye.